MJF the Mastermind, or can anything match the Bloodline storyline in the WWE? And is that what AEW is doing right now with the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite? Because that's a pretty big storyline they've done, and a new wrinkle brought into it tonight with the traitorous reveal of Konosuke Takeshita joining the Blackpool Combat Club. So the Elite outmanned and defeated once again at the hands of the Blackpool Combat Club. So they're really making it where the Blackpool Combat Club is the new Bullet Club of a decade ago in Ring of Honor, into which originated from New Japan. But that's what we're looking at right now. It's quite a move to go that all together. And remember, with all the people we have in here, obviously a lot of really veteran stars in the storyline, that does not require them to be taking on any titles. I mean, you're talking about some former world champions with Danielson, Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli also brought into that list. But right now, nobody's holding a belt out of all these people in this faction. And former world champions on the other side with Kenny Omega and Adam Page, and tag team champions with the Young Bucks. But they're all in this storyline right now with a couple of younger stars in Wheeler Yuta, who has been built up really well thanks to the BCC. Same thing going with now Konosuke Takeshita in this story with the Blackpool Combat Club. It's a standout. Now, do you get a younger star to join the Elite? Like, who do the Elite get in now to bring in as their member to kind of move things forward? And where do they go in the storyline? Because there's a lot left to tell in that story. So it feels like to me they're kind of trying to go on that route to have these stars here and these factions feud with each other. Donna Kyle's being brought into the mix. It's a good storyline. And you have a lot of veteran stars working out in that storyline right there. And the same thing with storylines right now with Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. And now trying to go ahead and add in Britt Baker and her team. Adding in Saraya and the Outcasts. Like, they're really bringing in a lot of people together in another arc storyline that goes into play. Meanwhile, you have your championship storylines when you have the world title. The three pillars are brought in with a strong match against MJF, but MJF, as always, the mastermind, very well story told. The storytelling was very good in the match. They told a great story in there. MJF at some points being out of the match, and when you look at Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, Sammy Guevara rocking it in there. If you just had him in a three-way match, which I always thought they were going to do, and MJF was going to be able to be held out of that. And a lot of people said things, well, why doesn't Darby Allin just get the first title shot against MJF and the others kind of work their way up? I think the intent of having the world title match the way it was with all those participants in the match was it made you look at the idea of, well, pushing him in the spot of a possible title run for many of them. And who was more likable in this role, the one that was going to be able to go and take down MJF. So Sammy was brought in a very specific way. Same thing going for Darby Allin. Those are the two that really stood out to me. And Jack Perry was in that space, but it was a different focus because of him struggling with a babyface character and almost using the belt, which you could have done like MJF tried to do, to win the belt tonight in that fatal four-way, of which MJF was able to go ahead and screw everyone over and win the match. Incredible storytelling. A very good show tonight. Packed card. Got to watch it in the Regal Theater tonight. One thing I'll tell you is that when you have to go to the movie theater right now, is tough because this weekend, a lot of big movies coming out. So Fast 10 from last week, Little Mermaid, among other movies that were going on. And like Little Mermaid, everybody must have come out for that. Like I saw every family out there. And when I thought Fast 10 last week brought out the concession stand, like I had to sit twice for half hours waiting in concession to go ahead and watch the matches. Thank goodness I have a way to still watch the matches while I was stuck in line. So I was okay with those matches. So let's go and talk about that. AEW Double or Nothing back at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The announce desk at ringside because of how they have the setup now for the show is quite interesting. But, you know, we saw it was being used later on the night, and there were quite a few times where there was kind of made mention of out there anyway. I did not watch the Firm and the Hardys and their setup, which has been a different feud altogether. I saw Jeff Hardy had a botch going on in the night. Meanwhile, Wardlow did a better job of being Jeff Hardy tonight with some of his moves in the ladder match he had for the TNT title. So Orange Cassidy takes on 20 other stars in the match, and the fact that Orange Cassidy came away from it to win in a pretty strong fashion. I mean, the roster of talent you had here to put in this match was quite quality. Think about it. To not see a match that was the Battle Royal, which is always with the different suits of the cards, we didn't get any of that. I actually liked it all this way. But you have Bandido, Komander, Big Bill in this match, and then you also include Rey Fenix, Penta, Miedo, Swerve Strickland, Keith Lee, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Jay White, Juice Robinson. That's great. And also a bunch of other mainstays that are in the main mid-card of AEW. I think they told a really good story. Swerve ends up at the end, and the embassy was trying to go and get their way through. When you look at what the Battle Royal shows, look at all those stars we don't get to see a whole lot of. And once we get to Collision in 2.5 weeks, we're going to see a big difference on what they're going to have available for people to watch. Who they're going to have that's going to be available on that show. Like, there's a plethora of talent, and they were all featured in this Battle Royal. So that was a good starter. It didn't take overly long either, which was fine. Looking at the times they had tonight, so they went 22 minutes for that Battle Royal. That was good. And really, there were a number of matches they had in the card, and then it was really packed all the way through, but a lot of young stars. It's really the thought about how were people going to go ahead and take this when you didn't have a lot of loaded veterans across the board in all these different matches. Like, you did, but not to the level of where it's like AEW is running a show with all WWE talent and they're just spread across. Like, there's not so much of that. I mean, there is, but not to the point where it could be. That's just my opinion. And maybe I'm wrong. So anyway, Adam Cole, accompanied with Sabu and Roderick Strong against Chris Jericho. Unsanctioned match. Love it. And with that match, I'll tell you, Adam Cole winning the match, he incapacitates Jericho. And then he's getting a revenge for the attack, which was a well-played story out where Britt Baker got attacked. But Britt Baker made an appearance, made a cameo, got out there, swung the kendo stick at Chris Jericho. That was justified. And Adam Cole beating the tar out of Chris Jericho to where they had to go and do a ref stoppage. And the match will continue. They're already set up for Dynamite. Britt Baker and Adam Cole against Sarai and Chris Jericho. I love all that. That's really good stuff. AEW World Tag Team titles. Mark Briscoe is the special guest referee. I'm going to just say this. I'm enjoying more and more, and I guess this goes back to Ric Flair's last match. I like Jarrett and Lethal together as a team. I like Sanjay Dutt being part of this too, and the inclusion of Karen Jarrett, man, she is ultra heat. I'll tell you what, ultra heat for Karen Jarrett is fantastic, and she plays her role well. And Jeff Jarrett, the guitars, and the whole setup there. So in the first part of the match, Cash is getting beaten up. And they go to about a good 10 minutes. Jim Ross makes a point of it. And then a hot tag to Dax Harwood. And let me tell you, just leave Jay Lethal and Dax Harwood in the ring. You can let them go an hour. I will never get bored. I will never get tired of them. They are great together. Fantastic together. I could watch that all day. Like, those guys have great chemistry together in the ring. It's just something really special. Now, they did a really good thing towards the end where there was a bump where Mark Briscoe took the brunt of a guitar. And then Aubrey Edwards would also get hit with a guitar, being interfered and, being roadblocked by Sanjay Dutt so that Karen Jarrett could go and swing a guitar at Aubrey Edwards to incapacitate both referees in the match. Pretty well put together. I enjoy that part too. And so afterwards, FTR is able to get the win, retain the titles, but Jarrett and Lethal, great team together. Let's just see them keep going together. I like it. I like the whole setup. Hopefully they'll keep them around. The TNT Championship ladder match and Wardlow. By the way, Christian Cage, even with the black turtleneck in the ring tonight, he's methodical, diabolical, strategic. And I'll tell you, how does this guy not slow down? Christian is like, what? He's nearing 50 if he hasn't already been there yet. But Christian Cage, he just does not slow down. This guy still works hard and full speed and gave Wardlow a run. And really, I mean, they made Wardlow look like $1 million out there tonight. Christian Cage is doing the job. Excellent work. They have a groin injury during the match. And then you see a shot where Wardlow neutralizes Luchasaurus, who attacks. And let me tell you, man, Wardlow taking a shot on the ladder. And remember, they had to reinforce that thing. He had referees holding down the ladder to make sure that Wardlow wouldn't fall. And he landed on Luchasaurus perfectly on the both tables. Excellent work on that match. Wardlow stood out. And a very strong match for the TNT title. Love that. Then you move along to the World Championship for the women. And Jamie Hayter. This is where I thought that Toni Storm had to go and make the win here. The Outcasts were going to be a weak faction at best if they did not do something here and finally win something off of this. So you already know that Britt Baker was kind of handling business early in the night with Chris Jericho and would come out later. But Jamie Hayter already gotten attacked and beaten up and was already in bad shape before she got into the match. And the Outcast really needed the win. And so you get that done. Even with you have Britt Baker out there to try to help out. And Hikaru Shida, who also tried to help out as well. Was it enough? Toni Storm winning the belt now outright and becoming no interim, full-fledged Women's World Champion is good. Smart. And if Jamie Hayter is able to go work her way back to go after Toni Storm, it's excellent. I like the move here. She's going to be a good champion here. I think it was good to have her in this role as a heel as champion, as opposed to her being a face as the interim champion. And I like that. It works for me. It works for me a lot. World Trios Championship. And they claim the daddy ass. They claim the daddy ass are also pretty well together. Everybody is viral right now on TikTok about Max Caster's comments about Buddy Matthews and Dominic. And yeah, with Buddy Matthews attached to Rhea Ripley, that whole story is fun. That's good stuff. On the match, Anthony Bowens is getting destroyed. And then Billy Gunn comes in. He takes the pin, which is good. So Acclaim stays strong. House of Black are looking unstoppable. They're getting booked strong now. Very strong. And I don't think they're doing... And to have them control these trios titles, this is exactly how you use those belts. They're the open house rules match. I love all that. It's good. It's a good setup for that. You go into Jade Cargill and Taya Valkyrie, and I don't know what it is, if there's been a whole lot where Taya Valkyrie's worked together with Jade Cargill as of late, but Taya has great matches with Jade Cargill. Enjoy what she's doing together. Another good bout with Jade, and they did the setup where, you keep Jade Cargill strong again. Like, put it like this, all right? Road to Valhalla, 2 count, and then it does get reversed around, and then Jade happens. Jade wins 60-0 holding the belt, and Mark Sterling opens his big fat mouth. Open challenge is made, and Chris Statlander returns after how many? Has it been a year at least since she was gone? I hope she gets able to go and stay healthy this time around. And for the reward for her coming back, they put her out there and quickly give them the short match, and Chris Statlander wins the match. 48 seconds to become new TBS champion, and Jade Cargill drops and loses her first match. Big deal, man. Wow. And then you go along into MJF in the 4-way match for the AEW World title. 27 minutes, 50 seconds for the match. Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Sammy Guevara was lightning at the bottom. The best of the best, these all. And that, listen, all the tandem moves from, the planchas, from the submissions to the near falls. It was acrobatic. It was a performance on top of a performance. And the crowd ate it up. And I'm telling you, for these young guys to be able to go and rock that match like they did, Anarchy in the Arena had to take up another step to be able to go ahead and live up past what the championship match was. Because you could have put that championship match at the end, but, with MJF winning, you're not going to have that finish at the end. But it doesn't matter. They were going to have something that was going to happen to the end anyway. But they make this strong again. And MJF, limited time, he's defending that belt. And I think a lot of people are going to probably dispute about the fact that this really brought down the level of Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy Jack Perry. I don't think it did. Sure, MJF continues to do when you do competition, I got it. But I don't think this hurts at all what they're doing here. I think they actually stepped up, and I think they all had a good chance to win, and they looked strong in defeat. I think MJF really does enhance talent. I think working with certain people that he works with, he's able to go ahead and elevate other stars around him. And it wasn't even so much they need to be elevated. Like, they have great matches anyway, but in this championship match, it was quite a step up. And there was a few things you could see where, for them to be in this championship match, a couple things they could have done differently in various points. And with Sammy, there was, there were certain moves that could have been changed around to give them a chance to win. They showcased that all across the board. When it comes to Darby Allin, it was a couple of times like that where he hits the coffin drop and then he decides, let's go do the headlock takedown on MJF to get the pin to a 2 count. And then you go along into Jack Perry grabbing the belt after it was dropped in his hand and could have used that to knock out Sammy Guevara, but did not. It's very well played storyline. It's strong. It's telling the good story that's been going on for months. And I'd like to still see these pillars somewhere, somehow involved. I don't know if there's anyone else that's really primed up and ready to go for MJF that's not part of another storyline. And that's what they're at right now. So, are they going to build up somebody else that's going to be ready to go for that? Or are we going to stick to the pillars? And I'm thinking the pillars are going to still be around for that. So we already talked about the BCC and the Elite. They went all out for this match. Out and spill out to the arena. You got the tax. You got plenty of blood. Plenty of everything going on over there. It was a pretty well done match. And to see the BCC staying strong again, while the Elite is still kind of banged up and they're trying to, they just got themselves together now. There's plenty of storyline you can do with all this. I wouldn't be surprised if you took the BCC and the Elite and maybe they're not so much focused over on Dynamite. I think the BCC and the Elite is something that gets focused on exclusively on Collision. But I think that show would probably be more for the veterans. Meanwhile, you have all these title feuds where you're dealing with Jade Cargill and Wardlow and MJF and Orange Cassidy. The younger stars over on Dynamite are working on that brand. Meanwhile, the veterans are consuming much of the time over on Collision. When you think about Roosh and Bandido, if Andrade ever comes back, if you're going to go ahead and talk about CM Punk coming back, the veterans should go and consume one of these shows. I'm thinking it's going to be Collision for the most part. But they did a really good job over and all for the night. I enjoyed this pay-per-view. It's the thing that they're going to have to figure out. They are able to go and elevate their stars pretty good with storylines. I think they've done a really good job of making Orange Cassidy very, very strong. FTR holding on to the belts is a good thing. Wardlow's a very strong TNT champion. Toni Storm's going to work great as a women's champion right now. House of Black, trios titles, excellent. Excellent work. And I guess Chris Statlander and Jade Cargill go into a feud after this. We'll figure it out. But there's a lot they can play off of all this here. So I like it. I like a lot of it. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. That is the show for tonight. Thanks for listening in. I'm just tired. It was just a long night. And I already did a show last night doing a post show for WWE Night of Champions. And I also talked about Impact Wrestling's Under Siege. I did not watch NXT Battleground. Okay. Not something I was going to watch. I just haven't been much in NXT at all, except for maybe Tiffany Stratton, but I don't have to watch her matches to look at her. Just saying. And that's where I'm at with right now. So I'll leave it there. That's the show for tonight. Thanks for listening in. Please make sure to go and catch the show. The website is WrestlingIsReal.com. Look for the Wrestling Is Real podcast wherever you find podcasts. Of course, please rate and review the shows if you're subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also find it on Apple. Find it on Amazon and Google and all major podcast platforms. You can find them all at WrestlingIsReal.com and on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I am at King of Podcasts. So we'll be back Wednesday to find the fallout of all this. Night of Champions, Double or Nothing. We'll talk about it coming up on the next Wrestling Is Real podcast because wrestling needs us.